Okay, hello, my name is Jonathan Hawley, and I'm with Educational Message Services and Prevention Pays Text. And we're going to go over some slides today, and we're going to also do a live demonstration so that you can see how the user interface operates and get a few tips on how to increase engagement in your community and offer support. And offer support in a multitude of ways. We'll talk about all of the different ways you can use text, not just for live help, but also for some automated functionality, and then hybrid communications where you're utilizing maybe part automation and then part live help, and those two can sync in and dovetail in together in a way that can be very beneficial to clients. So having tools available to you to, say, assign a survey and then monitor the survey responses as that survey completes, and then returning to that conversation once that survey completes, so that you've got some additional information on board, but you're also maybe creating a situation where the client is now eligible for information that you're going to be sending them. You can utilize that kind of model also with rescheduling of appointments. So sending automated appointment reminders out and then having live capacity be part of the rescheduling. You know, it's one thing to send an appointment reminder by text, but what happens after that, right? And what happens when the client wants to reschedule? Well, what you can do with the system is you can have that be part automated and then part manual, so that you're helping your clients, you're more engaged with your clients, and you're addressing their needs in a more complete way. Not just sending that one isolated message, but knowing that an isolated message often leads to more. And we're going to show you a little bit more about how that might look. So enterprise tier 1 short code texting. What does that mean? It just means that the software itself is enterprise, and we've developed it according to HIPAA guidelines, meaning that the servers are dedicated and co-located, and we store and archive all data according to HIPAA standards. So, and then the short code just means that is a 5 or 6 digit number that folks will text with. And those are set up with tier 1 communication channels, meaning that it's the most direct route to that phone that you can have when you have a tier 1 short code. You're able to send to everybody who has a mobile phone, so regardless of their carrier. It's comprehensively supporting of all carriers, but then also that it's sending the message in the most direct route and giving you a delivery receipt upon delivery. So that delivery receipt comes in the form of, you'll see in the user interface when we log in, you'll see what that looks like. It's just a little timestamp, but when you scroll over that timestamp, you see the details of your outgoing message and how it was delivered and at what time it was delivered. And then also, if it's undeliverable for any reason at all, we're going to notify you, so that if it's delayed, or if the phone is somehow deactivated, which sometimes happens, and the message is undeliverable in a moment in time, we'll update the user interface and let you know live that message is in delay, and here's the reason why. So you always know. And then we can also auto retry, so that you don't have to keep trying to send a message that might be temporarily delayed. So there's a lot about that, enterprise and then tier 1. The enterprise side of the software is HTTPS, so when you log in, it's a web-based service, just like any other web-based service that you might use, where you have login credentials. When you log in, you see and access the user interface, much like an email or chat program, where when you log in, that's where you access all your communications. That's where you send messages from, and that's where you schedule and do all of your work and offer live support if you're offering live support. So you're on a computer, the end user, the client, is on their mobile phone. Okay, and all of the short codes adhere to CTIA and FCC communication guidelines, meaning that end-user privacy is supported and integral to the services. So if a client doesn't want to be texted, they just have to text stop, quit, or unsubscribe, and they are opted out. They get an automatic response, so you don't have to mine the system to see, who doesn't want to be texted. All of that is part and parcel to the service, so that it's supported and it's something that you don't have to worry about. Now you can run reports on things like, how many clients opted out, and these are the clients that opted out, but it's not you that has to make those things happen. And that's according to CTIA and FCC communication guidelines, and it respects end user privacy and always gives them the option to opt out and cancel the messages that they're getting from you. And if you have any questions about the end user privacy component or the security component of the website, you can email us at info@preventionpaystext.com and ask any questions you want. And again, that email is info@preventionpaystext.com, and you can send any questions you like regarding any of the things we talk about today. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so the messaging capacity that we're talking about, so what it enables you to do with this software is have live one-on-one texting, right? So any kind of live help request. You can also manage simultaneous concurrent conversations. So a single responder can be open and having concurrent conversations, which is really important to understand. Texting supports that kind of ebb and flow, where you can open up a couple cases, and the system supports this kind of model. Open up a couple of conversations and monitor, have a couple in the background that you're monitoring while your primary is the one that you're texting with in the moment, and that you can toggle easily between those conversations. And that is really kind of changing how live help works, right? Because the live help that we know about, or we've all grown up on, is a 1-to-1 ratio. It typically is. It's typically seen and viewed that way. And so when you look at it, and it's through a slightly different lens, when you start to look at it as something that can scale up a bit and support maybe more people at one time, and that really kind of challenges the notion of how live help and how we understand it. And you'll see in the user interface the opening up of concurrent conversations is not difficult to do. And if you're adept with using conversational tools in another kind of app, or you've done chatting, or Facebook, that you can have concurrent chats going on. So that you've had experience there. You'll be able to see and understand and probably pick up pretty quickly on how the concurrent conversations work in the software, in the Prevention Pays. Reminders and auto responses to keywords, so you can have as many keywords that trigger any kind of customized response or responses that you want. And you can send messages out to folks based on opting into those keywords. And so you can have message tracks, right? And we'll talk about that in the reminder series just below. But sending out any kind of message, once they've opted in, they're organized by that keyword, and then you can send them messages based on that. And they can be set in the future, they can be set as a series, or they can be set to trigger other things like surveys, SMS text message surveys, not the kind that sends a link to a SurveyMonkey, actual SMS, so back and forth, two-way, but automated, that gathers the information through a text message exchange. And then, so surveys pre, during, post, right? So you have as many surveys as you need. Those surveys can be fully automated, where at the close of our case, we want to survey how we were. Was the help helpful, right? Did we help the end user get the support they needed? Or were you able to follow up on the resources or the information we provided to you? So any kind of a survey that's after the encounter or pre. So you could have a eligibility survey that triggers based on an end user opting in and asking for help. That pre-survey could trigger and ask them questions that would get you further along. If you know that X, Y, and Z, we need to have X, Y, and Z on board, well, that survey can then trigger automatically and complete, so that when you open up and have a conversation with the client, you already have all of those important questions on board, and it was done in an automated way. And so it gives you time to kind of prepare to have your conversation. It gives the end user time to get more prepared to have their side of the conversation, and it just helps with the overall flow and efficiency of the conversation itself. And then what about during, right? You can have an eligibility survey that comes up during a conversation. Not automatically, that can be triggered by a staff member. So once we determine that they meet the criteria to have a survey applied, then you can assign that survey manually and have that client complete that survey and then return to the conversation. So any of those, and they can be automated and schedule automatically, or they can be manually assigned by a staff member once it's deemed necessary to assign that survey. A survey can be as many as one question. How would you rate the help you just got? 1 to 5, Likert scale type question, and then it's done. Or it could be multiple, and it could have skip patterns, right? It could be a more complicated survey that if they answer this way, then it goes to this question. If they answer that way, then it goes to the next question. And we also support surveys that can pull information from databases. So, and if you have more questions about that, again, you can email us any of the integration that we support, third-party integration. Just email info@privilegebasedtext.com with any questions about that. But yes, we can pull information from external databases, and that can be done as a result of a survey being completed. Okay, and then a reminder series. Now, what this is using text messaging in a way that's going to be educational. So creating a SMS experience based on that client, that end user opting in to that reminder series, and then that will start the sequence of messages. And you can pre-program as many messages as you need to. You can have messages that trigger surveys. You can have messages that trigger other messages, right? So that it's all under your observation and control. You can create these series and you can edit the series. It doesn't have to be all created in advance and done in advance before you can use it. You can be building a reminder series and know that you're going to be editing it over time as you learn more about how people are consuming the information that you're texting them, right? And if you get responses to certain messages, what then? Do we trigger other messages, or do we want to modify that message because we're not really maybe communicating the information right and we're getting responses, and therefore we're going to rewrite that message? So thinking about content that goes out according to a schedule that's flexible, that you always have complete surveillance over, and you can edit it as needed. So chain of SMS messages that go out according to a schedule, and then can also be interspersed with surveys. Group messaging. Now, group messaging is kind of keying off of the series message or reminders to keywords. And so text messages that go out based on somebody opting into a keyword. You can also build groups, ad hoc groups, based on any criteria you have. So that's, if you've ever had experience with, say, marketing, email marketing, where you put certain emails in a group and then you send that email out, and all 5 or all 100 people get your email, whatever that is, right? That the groups tab lets you build and send tags based on your ad hoc building of that group. And you can get at those people that are going to go into that group based on information that's part of their profile, right? Their mobile number or their name or something else, right? Maybe you've assigned data markers to that profile, an age or a zip code or something they've texted, right? That you have flexibility in how you obtain the person through a sorting tool under the Groups tab, how you obtain the individuals that are going to go into that group, how you arrive at that group. So experience with, any kind of grouping through email, you would do well with the Groups tab and group messaging. It's completely ad hoc, and some agencies use it for like staff alerts, right? To give you an example, if you're sending out staff alerts, staff-wide text messages to everybody, but it's about a shift that needs to be covered. It's just one example. Maybe it's not going to be a good message to send to all staff, right? So alternatively, we could go, you know what, actually, Jim and Janet and Andy are going to be good people to send out this text to, because I know that they're going to be available for this shift. So why send a text to everybody if I can subgroup, build a little custom group and send the text just to them? So the capacity to send to everybody, but if it's not necessary, the Groups tab lets you assemble your separate, unique group that's just going to get this particular message. So it's really neat and efficient, and you can also use it for things like, as clients opt in and get support, once you learn about them and maybe learn things that another example would be, for instance, if you know that a certain part of the population that you're communicating with is veterans, and you're marking off as they have conversations, you're marking off that they're a veteran. Well, then you can ad hoc group those individuals at a later time just to send content to them. So thinking forward as to, once we have our live help, when we're providing live help, what are we gathering? What information are we gathering about clients that might make it possible to then group them and send them additional content down the road? And then appointment reminders. And we call it, though, Appointment Reminders Plus, because it's not just appointment reminders, isolated events. It's the ability to also have conversations with those clients that get those appointment reminders, and really changing the face of appointment reminder compliance. Because if appointment reminders by text is good, well, appointment reminders that have live support or quasi-live support, maybe some automated Q&A to enable them to cancel their current appointment, and then give you information on how they would like to reschedule it, or the days and times that they would be available to reschedule it, so that then becomes an experience that, rather than that person just blowing off their appointment, which regardless of if it comes by SMS or auto robocall or whatever it is, if they're going to blow it off, they're going to blow it off. Unless you give them the option to cancel and reschedule right there, and you don't force them out of that comfort, right? You don't force them to change the channel, to change the mode of communication, that they can just stick with SMS and reply. You'd be amazed at the additional compliance levels that you get, because when they're able to just easily cancel and reschedule through SMS, the same way they got that appointment reminder, it makes it that much more user-friendly for them. Okay, so the case study that we're going to talk about is United Way 211 in Atlanta. They launched, and they've been actively providing live support. They've been providing automated on demand, so a couple different parts of their service. They offer automated as an alternative to live help, so that as individuals come into their queue, they query them as to whether or not they would like to speak with somebody, a specialist, or if they want an automated referral, here are the options for that. And they give them a menu of options so they can get automated referrals for things that are very routine, things that are like, yes, based on my zip code and based on maybe a couple other questions, I'm able to give them a referral. And so we can pull that referral automatically from their database and send that to the client. And then that offloads some of those super repetitive encounters. And then if the client needs live support, then they go on and have that live conversation with the agent, and everybody is able to see the queue and how that happens, so that as those cases come in and choose automated or stay with live help because their issue's more complicated, they're able to see and view all of that as part of their setup, which is really nice. They initially, back in 2015, launched in under 48 hours. So they handled all their training. They handled all of the setup. We got them set up and all of their initial program assistance. That all was done in about 48 hours, which is really, it was a aggressive timeline. And it's been extremely successful, and we'll have a look at this. So in March of 2015, they didn't do any marketing. All they did was they put notice on a couple social media outlets. So I think they put notice on like a Twitter and the Facebook, and then they got 200 requests. And then in April, they went ahead and put it on their homepage of their website and let people know that they can text their zip code to 898-211 and get live support. And so now they manage on average 1,000 to 2,500 unique encounters per month, and they're sending on average between 6,000 and 12 or 15,000 phone to text referrals monthly. So separate from the unique encounters. Unique encounters are the conversations that they're having with clients, and then the phone to text referrals are the phone text referrals are sent to. Okay, hold on just a minute. Sorry about that. Okay, so over the past 24 months, we've talked about how many clients they handle. So when we talk about unique encounters, that just means the live help unique encounters that they're providing, different from the phone to text. The phone to text referrals are when they're on a phone conversation. Then they're able to trigger referrals out of their database, and they can send those referrals to callers. And they can use the same channel, 898-211, and the same number to send those referrals to callers. And that also helps with their marketing, right? Because as they begin to use text and let the community know, it's nice to be able to send those callers text via the same number, because if they're going to later have a text conversation, then that's already in their phone. Also, it ensures that the end user gets that message, right? So that there's a delivery receipt for the text that goes to the caller, just as there's delivery receipts of the text that happen with the conversations. So all of that is very, it helps with the overall general understanding and promotion of the service. And it's really wonderful for the end user not to get referrals sent on 10-digit numbers, maybe a few different numbers for each referral. That gets a little sticky and problematic. And if you've received text from 10-digit numbers and from a system, you know what I'm talking about. It oftentimes they're correlated with spam, and it just can be really problematic. And any of the spam texts that you get, they're always coming from those long numbers, those 10-digit numbers. And there's many benefits, not just the end user privacy and the tier 1 component and the deliverability and the delivery receipts, but it also end user privacy and guarantee, that they're not going to get spam down the road and things like that, which is just horrible, that those types of things occur, right? Let's move on to the next slide. So INR specialists, those people who are managing the service, very pleased with it. They prefer text over all of the channels. They like to be able to handle concurrent conversations. Then end users and clients are happy that they're able to text, right? They love the option. They love the option to have automated if it's just a quick referral that they want. They love the prompt nature of text. And they just love the alternative, right, of being able to text in and get resources or information and get somebody and speak with somebody and not have to answer their phone or have a phone conversation. There's this whole new generation of people who have a real strong aversion, and who these people are, who have a strong aversion to phone calls. And so we have to be able to support these folks in different ways. And by offering text, it gives them that option, that alternative option to have a conversation, get the information they need, and not have to do something that's very uncomfortable for them. And then there's some people who just simply can't. They can't make a phone call. In some of the misconception about text, and if you're have a low-income phone or a Go phone or a government-issued phone, it's the voice that are limited. The voice minutes are limited on those plans. Text is usually unlimited. So a person who has very limited resources and may be homeless will oftentimes have a phone, because if they've wound up with a government issued or pay-as-you-go, something like that, a Go phone, and they don't have minutes. They've exceeded that, but they are still able to get text messages. So sometimes text is based on need. Other circumstances, we've done a lot of work recently with disasters, and as you all know, there's been plenty of that happening lately over the last several years. And these disasters, some of them will damage communication infrastructure, and they'll take out phone lines. They'll take out many of the staying power and the power lines and so forth. But text is very durable, and there's oftentimes people are still able to send and receive text when everything else is unavailable. So it can be of necessity sometimes. Overall, they feel like text is extremely popular among their clients. Their numbers keep going up. And they highly recommend the software and the service. You can reach out to them at any time you'd like. Their contact information is available here, and very kind and willing to share about their experiences, both with getting started, their aggressive launch strategies, as well as how they manage live support. They offer a great deal of information about that, and are available to answer any questions that you might have. So quickly over texting trends, 83% of American adults own cell phones, 3/4 of them, 73% send and receive text messages on a daily basis. That number has gone up since then. This is a couple years old from Pew Research. Americans under 55 text more than they talk on the phone and email combined. Fascinating. According to Pew Research, text is the number one thing we do above all other things. Any of the social media, anything like Twitter or Facebook, we text more than all of it. And how many times do we make voice calls? That's number 6 on the list of the most frequent things we do on our cell phones. So who would have thought that we would be a society that has mobile phones that we take with us wherever we go. And these mobile phones are used for almost all these other things. And one of the least things we do is make voice calls. You may be the exception, and you may be saying, I make voice calls all the time. Well, that's wonderful, but there's a lot of people who do not. And according to Pew Research, it's number 6. So things have changed, and text is the most active or the most prevalent action on their phone. Over 70% of Americans prefer text over phone for live help. So if they were given the option, they would like to be able to text. Well, as you know, when you contact various entities and you try to get live support, it's usually on hold, or you're waiting to speak to somebody. And when you do speak with someone, you don't have an option as an alternative to text with them. So, but if given the opportunity, there are several people who would prefer to take a text conversation just to save time. It might be something that they can troubleshoot or ask a quick question about their plan or their service or whatever that is. And if they were able to do that by text, they would prefer it. And then over 98% of texts are open in the first 5 minutes. So that's read rates are tremendous. By contrast, Twitter, 80% of all tweets go unread. So when we look at our Twitter feed, we only read about 20% of those. 80% of all web browsing in the United States is happening on smartphones. So the bargain was with our carriers, right? They said, hey, you don't need your phone line anymore, your landline. You can just use your phone for everything, right? So that also translated to more encouraging people to buy data plans, right? So that your phone really becomes the center of everything, because you're doing all your web browsing on that device as well, because that's where your internet is. So you're not people aren't getting home internet. They may not get home internet, and a lot of people have abandoned a landline, and so they're using their smartphone for pretty much everything, including web browsing, going home and web browsing from the smartphone. Contact centers pay an average of 80 cents per text encounter. A call can cost as much as $20. So that's according to Consumer Reports, that a call can be very expensive by contrast to a text encounter. So there's cost savings in text. Individuals prefer text when dealing with sensitive subjects, and this has been researched now. Several research projects have come out over the past several years that when dealing with sensitive topics like personal issues, emotional issues, or financial, or things that are difficult to speak about, that if given the opportunity to text about them, that they oftentimes are more sincere, so they're less likely to satisfice, right, to give the answer that they think you want, but rather give the answer that's correct and accurate. And then also more willing to open up and discuss sensitive topics when it's by text, the perceived privacy that comes with texting. And that an end user can be in a public place and still be texting about the sensitive topic and not feel ashamed or worry about somebody overhearing them. Or in their own house, and there's plenty of people who are in their house and don't want their family members to know what they're talking about. So text can enable them to be in a more private, in a public place, but privately communicating with that staff member. And what is a call to action? So a call to action is just the basic idea of telling somebody that they can text you. And you can have click to text, request a text back links, things like that. All those things are available, but it's just the call to action, right? This is what you need to text in order to get help from us. And Gen Y, and that can be placed on any collateral. It can be placed on websites. It can be, placed on Twitter, whatever you need, and wherever you would post your number to let people know that they can call you, you could post the call to action for texting. And Gen Y, of course, text more than any other group. We have WIC agencies that are now using the text platform for all of their day-to-day communications. So their Gen Y group of women, mostly women, have opted to just have pure texting. And so they're not using a phone line. They're not having conversations on the phone. They're just having dialogue, all appointments managed, appointment compliance, and then the day-to-day Q&As, everything through the platform. And, it's really changed how they perceive the way they need to staff and the way they need to train. All of those things come into question when they make that kind of a shift. And then Americans under 55 text more than they talk on the phone, email combined. We talked about that. Here's just another example. Interesting, the over 55 segment is the fastest growing at the moment. The next gen help seeker is already here, right? They're walking among us, they're around us, and we know who they are, and we see them every day. And if given the opportunity, they would choose to text you first. So what is message tracking? This describes it. This describes what it is. It's not tracking in the way of tagging anything or anything like that. It's tracking in a way of giving you receipts on when it was delivered. And so all the mobile carriers support this. We have connected with them and connected in a way that supports live updates from all the mobile carriers, letting us know when messages are received by them and when they're delivered. And when delivery is not possible, we will provide you with a code that is part of the timestamp, and it'll let you know that it was unable to be delivered, and this is the reason why. And if it's retriable, then it'll automatically start to retry, and it'll put it on a 5-minute cycle. And you can go on and help somebody else while that message is being retried, or you can continue on with the conversation. It might just be that one message got stuck in a retry cycle. Okay, so we can all, you're welcome to follow along with this live demo. We're going to go to the website in a moment and opt in, and you'll see how an opt-in looks. I'm going to opt in from my phone. You're welcome to opt into your phone. We're going to use the short code 898211, and we're going to text a number. We're going to text 00022. We're going to send that to 898211. And when you send that, you'll get an opt-in message. If you want to opt out at the end of the testing, you can just text stop and you'll automatically be opted out. You'll get the opt-out message. So you're welcome to follow along. Anyone's welcome to join us in this live component. I'm going to go ahead and opt in a moment. This is what it's going to look like on your phone, right? You're sending the message to 898211, and then in the message part, you're just sending the zip code or the fictitious zip code 00022, 3 zeros and 22. And you send that to 898211, and then you'll get your greeting. Oh, and I just wanted to show you before we jump on the user interface, I wanted to show you what our new UI is going to be looking like. So our new UI will be coming out in the coming weeks, and we're excited about it. It's got some features, some functionality that's going to extend into higher and faster functionality with the conversations, and then also just easier to interpret and see. And so the new UI is coming very soon. And also we're going to provide some data visualization as part of the new UI. So graphing of your data, not just Excel spreadsheets of your data, but also the ability to do some live graphing of that. That's just some exciting things that are coming along. But let's jump online and log in here. And I'm going to log out and log back in so we can see how that looks. See here, log out. So when you log in, you just see the login screen, right? And then you put your name or your username in the top, and then your password in the password spot, and then you sign in. And then you come to the user interface. The user interface shows you the conversations, or the access to the conversations is down the left-hand side, or in your case, yeah, it should be down the left-hand side. And then it also shows you the conversation that you're looking at. So if I opt in here by texting 00022, we'll see what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and opt in. In one moment, please. And I'll send this message. So down the middle of the page, we show you the conversation that you're looking at, right? And then down the left-hand side of the page is all of the conversations, right? So this is the user interface. This is where the conversations and the dialogue all begins. And so here is the inbox for all of the phone numbers that you're going to be able to text with. And then down the middle of the page is the conversation that you're viewing. And then down on the right-hand side of the page is the attributes. So the characteristics that are tied to the conversation that you're viewing. And then you can hide the attributes if you need to. Like, let's say you're going to respond or have concurrent conversations. So if I look at, for instance, this phone number, and I want to have a conversation with this phone number, I can open up that case. And then I get the text box, and then I get over here my canned phrases, right? And then over here, I have a second phone number, right? So if I'm responding to this queue, I could open up this secondary case, right? And now I'm responding to the 920, and then I've got a background case of the 831. So I can monitor the 831 while I'm having a conversation with the 920. And then I can open up a third, and then I can say, okay, well, now I'm conversing with 410, and I'm monitoring the 831 and 920, you see. Now, here's something really, really cool, too. Just as you can group phone numbers together and send them content, you also have group texting just based on those actions alone. So I opened up those three cases. I can go over to this Groups tab, and I can go, okay, let's text all three of these cases that I own. Let's send them a message, right? So I'm going to send them, hi. Jonathan, how may I help you? And if I don't put a future date and time, if I just leave it as is, then guess what? It's going to go out right away to those three cases that I opened up on. So let's see how that works. So then when I send that message out, well, then I'm going to get a little update up at the top of the screen that tells me that the group message was created successfully. It was just the cases that I had opened up. So then I can go back here to the Users tab, and I can go, okay, well, there we go. There's that 831 that I had in my primary spot that I'm conversing with. And then there's the 410, and then there's the 920. But what's changed, right? Each one of those cases now have that greeting that I sent based on knowing that everybody is going to need this greeting, right? Because we're going to have a conversation concurrently with three different people. So I can send them all a group message all at one time and save myself some time, right? So then as we get information back from the client, need help with food. So then I can send that message, and then that will update because it's in my live spot. That's going to update live, right? It's going to tell me that this conversation that I'm having has sent a message, and I'm going to hear the audio alert. I'm going to see the visual alerts, the flashing of the screen, the flashing of the line. The green one indicates the one I'm looking at. And then if this 410 were to send a message, I would see that one update here, right here, right? And then if this 920, were to send a message, I would see that one update right here, live. And so it's really neat. You can have group texting capacity, but not with the negative fallout of send, like if you know on a personal level, when you have group texting and you send a response back to the group that you were grouped in, everybody gets your text. Well, it's not that way, right? With this software, it's just the one way that is grouping, right? You're sending the message to everybody that you grouped, but when they reply, just you get their reply, not everybody in that group. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, right? It's group texting, but without the negative aspects of having to reply to all, right? So really cool stuff. And then to toggle between these conversations, right? I can click. So if say I want to have a conversation with this 920, all I have to do is go view, and then I'm in conversation mode with this 920, right? Simple, very easy. I can ISO my cases, right? So that I'm just looking at the cases that I'm either conversing with or that I case manage, right? So I can have clients that I'm working with, and I don't necessarily have to be responding to them. I can group them and be their case manager and see them all when I click the Mind tab. So the Mind tab sorts and keeps me. So if I've reached my limit, I'm just going to have a conversation with 3 clients, and that's it. And it might be that I'm grouping these clients together to have them come in, and we've been trying to call them for ages, and they haven't answered their phone. But boy, if I could just send them all a message and let them know, hey, we're here and we need to have you come in for a face-to-face or whatever it is. And wouldn't that be great to be able to do that? So I get my 5 cases, I send them that text, and then boom, I'm monitoring these 5 cases, and I ISO those 5 cases because I don't want to be bothered by anything else. I'm just working on those 5, and then I'll work with them and get them to where I need to be, and then close those cases out, and I'm done. But these sorting tools enable you to isolate cases in different ways so that you can work on them in a way that's going to be most efficient for you. You can also tag your outbounds with your name, so you can begin each of your messages. They're going to get a text, and it's going to be from the short code number, right? But it could also be that you begin each one of your personal texts with your name, which is just a setting in your profile. And that's fine too. If you do a lot of case management, or that's something that's important to you, that you want to make sure that they know when it's you and not an automatic message being sent from the system, that's a cool little component or feature that you can set up as part of your profile. And then as you provide live help, like you can toggle between the groups tab and go back and forth if you know that a message to all 3 is relevant and you want to do that. You can just pop over to groups tab and send another message, or you can individualize at this point, right? Because now we know that, okay, now it's going to be a one-on-one with all of these. I've introed, I've got them that first message out. I'm starting to hear back from them. I'm going to be working with each one of them on an individualized basis now. And so then it's just toggling between the conversations. And something else that I want to show you is, like, let's say I'm looking at this phone number and I see that they need help with food, right? Well, I can have my canned phrases so that they are sensitive to the issue or need, right? So if I look at my canned phrases, I can see, and these are all customizable by a group, like by your agency. You can say, these are our canned phrases that we use with all our conversations, or you can give permission to a staff member to create their own lists of canned phrases so that it can be as personal as the specific staff member that's doing it and setting them up. So for instance, like if I don't like what we're using for the general canned phrases, or I have some particular canned, or the way I outreach to clients is different, slightly different, so I want to have my group of messages and I want to see mine and not see the others, so I can be given permission to create my own set of canned phrases. And then I can calibrate them as I need to, right, to be most consistent with how I want to provide that live help. But say if I find that this person needs food, well, then I can go, okay, well, the first message, oops, I don't want to do that. The first message in the canned phrases for food service is, are you looking for a food bank, grocery assistance, or soup kitchen, right? So that might be a great first message to give to this 831 number, right? I still don't know what the 920 wants. However, I might have a canned phrase that is an intro, right? Something like, let me see here. Let me see, default. Yeah. So I can just send that out, right? So, and then what we see there is a delivery receipt in action, right? So that's when it's grayed out for a moment in time, that's the message getting delivered. It's in the process of being delivered. So when we hear back from the carrier is telling us, we got it. That's that acknowledgement. And then they update us one more time, and that's when it flashes again. And that's when you see that bottom there, when we scroll over the timestamp, that says delivered. So it's first acknowledged by the carrier, and we get a timestamp for that, and then it's delivered. And that is all carrier grade. It's directly from the carrier. So if you've ever got a client that says, oh my God, you were supposed to text me, blah, 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 and now I don't qualify, or now I don't get the benefit, or whatever, or my appointment reminder didn't come to me, you have a friend in the system, right? Because you can quickly go, well, what's your mobile number or your name? Let me look it up. You look over their case, you look at the outbound messaging, and you can say, without a shadow of a doubt, this was delivered, and your carrier confirmed it. So do we have a correct mobile number for you? But it's not about whether or not the message was delivered, because that's already been decided. It's wonderful. It's really a powerful thing to be able to have, especially when you're doing public health and human services. It's super simple for somebody to say, didn't get your text, I'm sorry. We want to make sure that you're able to have recourse with that. And that's what the delivery receipts are all about, is providing you with that recourse. So groups tab, group texting. Now, one more thing before we jump off the line. So let's say I have a conversation with a client that's winding down, and I want to provide them with a survey, and I want it to be a satisfaction survey, right? A satisfaction survey based on their encounter. So we can have this survey fire based on closing the case, right? Like we completed the conversation, so now fire that survey, but wait 5 minutes. Or we can have it be on a delay of a day or 3 days, or whatever you want. Or it can be immediate, right? You can have that satisfaction survey happen right away while you're still in conversation, or not, right? That can be an administrative decision when the satisfaction survey fires, or how that's set up, and whether it's completely automated or whether it's somewhat automated. I'll show you the somewhat automated, right? Where I can pick a satisfaction survey, and then I can assign that to the case. Let me move this box here. And then I assign that to the case, and then we'll see as that satisfaction survey fires, right? So we're gonna do a satisfaction survey that is manually assigned by the agent at the completion of the conversation. We'll watch it as it goes out, right? And then if the 920 replies, then that'll advance them in the survey, right? And it'll all be automated, but at that point. But the action of assigning it was manual, right? And you can also do, like, for instance, I can be on 831, and I can go, okay, well, I want to, and you can see there as that person replied back, we can pop over and we can see it go out, and then the message that's going to go out to them based on their reply, right? They responded Y, and then would you use this service again? Please respond yes or no. And so as they complete that, right, you can have the Q&A happen, the back and forth, and it's all automated. Like, I'm not doing things to trigger this, right? The only thing that I did to make this happen was assign it. And then once it's assigned, then it'll just play out. Or you can have this kind of model, right, where you go 831. I'm on the 831 number, and then I want to assign this, but I want to delay it. And I want to delay it, so I go select survey, and I pick the satisfaction survey, but I say delay, and I say delay 5 minutes. So now and you can see there how it can delay hours or days. So I can have that go out and then be 5 minutes from now, you see. So at approximately 13:05 Pacific, this satisfaction survey is going to go out to this particular client. So you can have all kinds of different, or you can do at close of case. So when I close my case out, that survey automatically assigns. It's a satisfaction survey, but it doesn't go for 15 minutes. So you don't have your staff kind of hanging on to that client to see how they reply to their satisfaction survey, right? Kind of try to get an idea of, save that, have it go out 15 minutes from now, so you're not watching cases as they reply to your satisfaction survey. But this is all what you have enormous flexibility on when messages are set up, when surveys are set up, and when they trigger and when they assign to a profile, and how all that plays out is all according to your settings. And we do this as part of your initial setup. So we make sure that if you're going to have a survey, or you're going to have an eligibility survey, whatever that survey is, that's all built out and ready to be used. And it's ready to be used in any of the ways we talked about, as an automated assignment or as a manual. Okay, guys, we're coming up on the hour. I'm going to hang out for a few minutes to answer any questions. However, the live demonstration, I'm going to stop for now. And like I said, I will be available, though, to answer any questions that you have, if you have any. And if not, you're off the hook. You can go and take care of whatever you need to take care of and have a good rest of your day. If you do want to ask any questions, I will be available for the next 10 or 15, 20 minutes, just responding to questions should you have any. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for going through this and learning a little bit more about how the software works, learning a little bit more about texting and how texting works.